Hey everyone, welcome to the RotoGrinders Morning Grind podcast. I'm your host, Stevietpfl. It's Wednesday, it's June 19th. It is 2024. We have an 8-game MLB slate to talk about here on today's podcast. Joined today by my good buddy, Stevietpfl, TastefulTides in the DFS streets. Tim, what's happening, my friend?
Yeah, not much. Tuesday night slate was not great for me. I definitely made some bad calls. Really tough pitching slate in my opinion. Looking forward to this slate coming up. We have tons of really good pitching on this slate.
Yeah, I mean, I mentioned it yesterday on the podcast, just kind of spreading out my ownership at pitching. Ended up playing a lot of Schwallenbach, Marsh, and Myers. Those are like the three guys that I think I had like 30 to 50% of those three guys, and then I mixed everything else up. Just kind of let it ride and have a couple really good teams going with Brewers and Dodgers that had some good bats from like Texas and stuff. So we'll see how the night kind of ends up for me. Very heavily rooting for the Brewers because my best team with low owned Brewers has Myers with Schwallenbach. So let's go Brewers. Let's go Brew Crew. What's up, chat? Hope you're all having a fantastic Tuesday night. And let's talk some baseball. We got a lot to talk about. 8 games. Pitching way better on Tuesday than it was on or Wednesday than it was on Tuesday, like you kind of already alluded to. So we get started right here at the top. Baltimore at New York. Cade Povich against Garrett Cole, 8.5 total in this one. Yankees a 172 favorite. Any interest here in Cade Povich?
Pitching is so strong this slate. Like if he was playing on Tuesday slate, I probably would have had interest, but this slate's completely different on Wednesday. Pitching is very, very strong. I know that Aaron Judge will likely be out of the lineup, but I still think that pitching's too deep, so I really don't have much interest in Povich.
Yeah, I mean, Yankees not a really high strikeout team. Young pitcher, only 2 starts so far in his young career. Threw 100 pitches against Toronto, 89 pitches against Atlanta. Had a really good outing in Atlanta. But I mean, still, like, even if Judge ends up missing this game, that actually probably hurts him because, I mean, Judge is a guy that has a bunch of power, but also strikes out a bunch. So, yeah, I'm probably going to pass on Povich. I like the price. If he was in a better matchup, I could see potentially doing it. Good bounce back after his like debut was a little rough. Garrett Cole on the other side of this game, 9K on DraftKings, making his major league first start of the season for the majors. He's pitched, I think he had 2 or 3 rehab starts in AAA. His most he threw was 68 pitches on a rehab assignment. He's 19 strikeouts, 0 walks, and 12 innings in his 3 starts. So absolutely incredible in AAA. I mean, he gets a tough matchup here going up against Baltimore. I kind of have Cole in the like 75 to 85 pitch range in this one. I
Yep.
don't think he'll go very deep. I think this is a spot where I feel pretty comfortable saying I'm probably not going to play Garrett Cole at 9K against Baltimore with a limited pitch count.
Yeah, so I was thinking 80 pitches, and in this matchup, I think that price is just enough to make you think about it, and maybe some people will play him, but I really can't do it. This matchup is really not ideal for him. Like I know he could dominate anybody, but your first start back after this long rehab, this is not a spot where I'm looking to attack. So I'm off Cole.
I don't know how much I really want to pick on him. I mean, Garrett Cole is someone that can give up home runs. You know, this is a nice ballpark upgrade for Baltimore. I mean, you could always make an argument for Gunnar Henderson. He's been one of the best hitters in baseball this season. You can make an argument for Santander, Rutschman, Westberg, really. Like any of these guys you could potentially make an argument for. I don't think Baltimore is a stack today. If you want to target like a power one-off, I completely understand why you would do that against Cole.
Yeah, this entire game is loaded with like power one-offs. Definitely do not mind ever going with Henderson. I don't mind going with Adley Rutschman because people very, very rarely like to spend that much on catcher. So especially on a team that's not going to be stacked very much. So I really like a one-off of like Adley Rutschman. I think that would be a really strong tournament play. Yeah, but really, I'm not looking to stack Baltimore.
You know who doesn't like to pay up a catcher? This guy right here.
Yeah, I mean, I don't either, but I mean, nobody does really. So
Rutschman is that guy though. Like
yes, yeah,
Rutschman, Sal Perez. Those are the guys that you pay up a catcher from time to time. Yankee side of this game. What are your thoughts here on the Yankees?
yeah. So I think we can safely assume Judge won't be in. Stanton's still under 5K, going up against a young lefty. So I don't mind getting to some Stanton. I don't mind Gleyber Torres either at 4,200. I mean, Soto's always fine, but really, I don't know. This would be more of like a 3-man situation than a full 5-man.
All right. Yeah, I mean, for me on the Yankees, assuming that Judge is out, I mean, you can always take shots on Stanton. If Judge ends up sitting, like if DJ LeMahieu cracks a good lineup spot, I don't mind taking some shots on him at 3,500. I don't necessarily love him hitting last, but he could potentially move up in the order here. Gleyber Torres could potentially move up in the order, so it'd be interesting to see what the lineup looks like here today for the Yankees if Judge doesn't give it a go. Boston at Toronto, 8.5 total here. Toronto, 136 favorite. Bayo against Gassman, not Castman. I don't know why I wrote down Castman. I was sleeping. Let's start here with Bayo, 7,500. Just really hasn't showed up to pitch yet this year. A really talented prospect that a lot of people were really excited for this season, and like strikeout rates at 20%. His walks have been an issue. He's really struggling with power to the left side of the plate, giving up hard contact to both sides of the plate. The swinging strikes are way down. I can't get excited about playing Bayo against a low strikeout Toronto team.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing Bayo's really great at is keeping the ball on the ground. So I'm really not worried about his like this lefty power situation because Toronto doesn't really have any lefty power, but they also don't strike out. And this is going to be a slate where you're going to need a ton of ceiling from both your pitchers, and Bayo just doesn't have that. So I think Bayo is a pretty easy cross off, despite the decent price tag he has. I just don't think he has any K upside in this spot. So I'm not going to be going after run prevention on the slate. I'm hunting for strikeouts, and he doesn't have them in this matchup.
Gaussman on the other side, fair price tag here at 8,300. Boston, some strikeouts in this lineup, but overall, I mean, a pretty heavy contact lineup. Not a ton of power. Good top half of the lineup. What are your thoughts here on Gaussman?
Yeah, I think he's okay. I think he's decent. I think he's okay. I think he's a all right play. I might get him like one of him in a 3 max setting. Um, I think he does have the ability to hit a ceiling in this matchup. Gaussman has, you know, a 24% strikeout rate. This Boston lineup, the bottom half does strike out at a pretty decent clip. So and Gaussman's got good control. So I think Gaussman might be worth a shot, and maybe one of your 3 max teams, but definitely not my favorite pitcher on the slate.
Yeah, I mean, same thing that we talked about yesterday. When you're facing Bassett or Gausman, you really need to have a lot of righties in the lineup, and Boston can just go left-handed heavy against Gausman, and that worries me. The price tag, I think, is cheap enough where in large field tournaments, if you want to play some, I wouldn't necessarily talk you off of it. All right. I mean, let's talk bats here. Any interest in the Red Sox bats?
Not particularly. I think that you can always play Devers, as a one-off. I think Duran has really turned a corner this year also. So I think he's interesting at 5,200, but I just don't think this is the best matchup. So I really don't have much of any interest in any of these cheaper Boston players. Yoshida's pretty cheap. if you really need like a cheap outfielder at 3,300, I think that's okay. But I'm not really looking to stack Boston.
Yeah, I mean Valdez cheap, Duran, Devers, O'Neill, Yoshida, like you mentioned. I don't mind, attacking some of these lefties. O'Neill righty, but Tyler O'Neill he's been phenomenal this year. On the other side, the Toronto Bats, I think the Toronto Bats are interesting today. They're definitely a gutless team that I hate to play, but with with Horwitz batting leadoff, that gives a lefty at the top of the order, like Varsho, a lefty, Barger, a lefty. Like, there's some cheap lefties in this lineup right now because it's June baseball, and this is the time we get to take advantage of some call ups. So I like some of the value in the Toronto lineup here against Bayu, and if you want to go like a 3 or 4 man stack and throw like Vlad or Justin Turner or somebody in there, I don't necessarily hate that.
Yeah, and people know, the Dodgers on this slate in cores, so you're going to need some cheap bats to go with your expensive Dodgers. So I don't mind the Horwitz call at all. I don't mind that play. But the thing is these lefties, other than maybe Varsho, I just don't think they really have much power. So, I think Varsho is a truly elite play, and then I don't know. It's tough because Bayo does such a good job of keeping the ball on the ground. So, um, not crazy about like the home run upside for Toronto.
Well, Varsho's a fly ball hitter, so it shouldn't be
Yep.
too affected
Right.
by a ground ball guy. Justin Turner's a fly ball hitter. Schneider is a fly ball hitter. So from what we've seen so far, so I mean they could benefit from a ground ball pitcher here, generate more line drives. Tampa Bay at Minnesota. 8 total in this game. Minnesota 162 favorite. We got Taj Bradley against Joe Ryan. Minnesota, I think I said it 162 favorite. Let's talk Taj Bradley first here. 8K for Bradley going up against Minnesota. Any interest in Bradley in this one?
I think you have to, just because he has such an elite K rate. Like, he can be all over the place in terms of Ks and walks and things like that. And this is not exactly a great strikeout matchup, but Bradley is so elite at hitting some K upside. So I think you have to consider him in large field GPPs, despite the fact that this is not the best matchup. So if he's got his control working, he could really win anyone a slate on any given day.
Yeah, I mean he's 8K. He has a massive ceiling with his strikeout ability. So very much in play for me today. Minnesota, we keep talking about like how I mean this team is really decent. They are, you know, uh, potentially a top 10 offense against right-handed pitching. So it's not the easiest matchup in the world. Their projected starting lineup in the same lineup that they ran out on Tuesday, 20.2% strikeouts against right-handed pitching. Bradley's just an elite strikeout pitcher. They've let him go over 90 pitches now in 4 of his last 5 starts. He has at least 6 strikeouts in 4 of his last 5 starts. Just playing for the strikeouts. I mean, now I'm playing him chasing the ceiling here for Bradley.
Yep.
Joe Ryan on the other side. I mean, same thing. I mean, yeah, Pablo Lopez failed again, which I'm shocked. Joe Ryan's an elite strike thrower, man. And he's capable of good games by his elite control and his, really good strikeout upside. They don't have a lot of lefties to attack Joe Ryan, so I'm interested in Joe Ryan today as well.
I think Joe Ryan is my favorite pitcher on the entire slate. I think this is a truly, truly elite spot for him. This Rays lineup is pretty K heavy when you get past the top 3. So, I mean, I think Ryan can really, really dominate this spot. I wouldn't mind pitching Ryan with Bradley, to be honest with you. I think there's a lot of Ks on both sides of this matchup. And I think Ryan is probably like my favorite, like top end pitcher.
Any interest in the Tampa Bats here?
Um, I guess I guess Brandon Lau is still technically too cheap, but I really don't have much interest at all.
Yeah, he's the only guy. Mentioned him yesterday on the podcast. Pretty sure he had a home run on Tuesday. Minnesota side, good offense. I just don't think this is the spot I want to play them. I mean, you could make the argument if Bradley struggles with his control, you could get a couple big timely hits in the spot and get him out of the game early. Like that, I think that's a fair argument. I just don't think I'm going to stack Minnesota today.
I'm not going to stack Minnesota today either, but I would say if you do, I think you should make it a 5-man because if Bradley doesn't have it, then he's really not going to have it. And walks lead to big innings. So I think if you do stack Minnesota, it should be a 5-man stack, and they're relatively cheap as well, except
Yep, don't
for
hate
Mr. Lewis.
guys smashing. 570
Yeah,
ISO against righties since getting back.
it's so insane.
Mets, Rangers, 8.5, pick'em game. Sean Manaea, Andrew Heaney, the battle of the lefties in this one. Let's start with Sean Manaea. Any interest in Manaea going up against Texas?
Not on this slate. I think he's a little bit too expensive. I think there's way better plays right around his same price point, way safer plays, plays with better ceilings. So no, I don't have any interest in Sean Manaea.
Yeah, his barrel rate has been through the roof recently. I know he's had some really good outings, but like he's given up at least a home run in 5 straight. And I mean, they're just waiting to pounce on this guy. So I don't think this is the spot I want to play him. Texas is dealing with some injuries. The lineup could be potentially weak, so maybe you adjust if the lineup comes out kind of weak. It's like I mean, I had a little bit of interest in Cannon, and then like Jordan was out of the lineup, and I ended up playing some Cannon today. Like you have to adjust when lineups come out. Other side of this one, any interest here in Andrew Heaney?
No, I don't. I think he's an easy cross off.
Yeah, no interest for me in Heaney as well. I mean, the guy just his control is all over the place. He'll have a good game from time to time, but his control is just all over the place right now. Let's talk Mets bats. Obviously Pete Alonso against the lefty is always
Hmm.
fantastic. JD Martinez, Lindor, Alonso, Marte, Vientos. Like, there's a lot of good right-handed power bats in this lineup. Mets are actually kind of one of my favorite sneaky stacks today.
But do you think they'll actually be sneaky? I'm a little bit worried that they're not going to be sneaky.
I think they'll be lower owned than we think. Like, they're not necessarily
Okay.
cheap. Like, the guys you want to play are all over 4K, so it's not like Vientos is 37, Bader are being there at like 36, Alvarez 34. So they have some salary relief in this lineup, but like I don't know if they'll be like necessarily chalky. I mean, the Dodgers get Feltner and Course. I mean, I feel like that's going to be the
Well,
spot
yeah,
most people go to. But I mean,
right.
maybe they're higher owned than I thought. But yeah, I think this is a good spot for them.
It's definitely a fantastic spot. I think Pete Alonso would make for a tremendous pivot away from some of the more expensive Dodger first basemen like Freeman and or Otani. So I think that's a great pivot. This is a great stack all in all. Heaney is, he can be really solid sometimes and awful other times. So I think the Mets make for a fantastic stack.
Yeah, I mean, and then on the other side of this game, the Texas side, I think that this is a spot you could look at some of these Texas bats. Obviously you got a lefty out there. Wyatt Langford with a home run. Good to see him, get one over the fence. His first home run was inside the park. Marcus Simeon is another guy that's been fantastic against left-handed pitching here. I assume that Garcia will be back in the lineup here, and both catchers can hit left-handed pitching. Grossman can hit left-handed pitching. So, yeah, I mean, overall, I think you want to keep doing this here and keep playing Texas bets.
How is Garcia 4K? Am I missing something? Is he just like, I mean, he's been bad, but that's a huge price decrease. So, I mean, he's honestly one of my favorite players on the entire slate, assuming he plays. 4K is way too cheap for him. So, That's like you could play him like in cash games even. So I really, really like him. He's a pretty obvious play. I don't hate the Texas stack either. Definitely, like you said, Manaya's barrel rates going up. So yeah, I'm fine with getting to some Texas bats.
Yep, like Texas, like these righties. Probably use them more as like mini stacks, but don't mind even like a Seager lefty lefty. I think like that is something that will be overlooked today. Sean Manaea has a really high ISO against left-handed pitching, so this is definitely one of those spots you could potentially play some Texas bets. All right, Houston at Chicago taking on the White Sox. 7.5 total in this game. Houston a 120 favorite. Hunter Brown, Garrett Crochet. Let's start with Hunter Brown. He's starting to get it turned around, and he's looked really good in 4 straight starts. Gets a great matchup here against the White Sox. Think he's going to be popular today. I thought Valdez was going to be chalky. He ended up not being chalky. Marsh ended up being the chalky one, and he's getting absolutely rocked right now. What are our thoughts here on Hunter Brown at 7K going up against the White Sox?
Well, he's definitely going to be the most popular pitcher on the entire
Yeah,
slate.
it's just too cheap.
His price is going down, Stevie. He goes
Yeah.
he goes 27, 34, and his price goes down $200. Like, what are they doing? He's going to be the overwhelming chalk on this slate, and how can you argue with it? So, I think personally, I think he's good chalk. I'm probably going to eat this, and just whatever. He's 7K. So like I love Joe Ryan on the high end, but Hunter Brown in terms of value is easily the top value pitcher, and he's easily going to be the chalkiest pitcher on the slate.
Going to the other side, Garrett Crochet, highest strikeout rate on the slate. I'm just going to keep playing him. I don't really care about the matchup at this point. I know Houston's a low strikeout team. They have a lot of injuries and they don't have a lot of power against left-handed pitching. I think Crochet is a fantastic ceiling play. Yeah, it's a tough matchup, but man, this guy has definitely proved himself as a elite strikeout pitcher. 35.7% Ks this season, 39.3% over the last month, whiff rate over 30%, swinging strike rate over 16%. The dude is an elite strikeout pitcher, and I'll play him in just about any matchup right now.
Yeah, like you said, this Houston team is struggling a little bit with injuries. So yeah, I don't mind the Crochet call, but I think it comes down to, do you want to play Cole Reagans against the A's, or do you want to play Crochet against the Astros? Like for me, it's not as cut and dry, I guess. Totally understand that Crochet is a massive ceiling, but I think I'd rather play Cole Reagans in a game that we're going to talk about.
Yeah, and you're typically like a single entry, main lineup type of guy. I typically play 3 entry and then have some fun in 20 entry max contests. And like Garrett Crochet and Reagan's will be very like staples in my 3 entry and 20 entry max builds. Like they're probably 40% guys for me today. So I just love attacking the ceiling. I think there's plenty of ceiling to attack on this slate, and Crochet is one of those guys.
Yep.
Houston bats. Any interest in the Houston bats here?
Not particularly. I no. Especially if Alvarez is out. I mean, this team's lineup is really ugly without him. So I'm not looking to play Altuve at 52 or Bregman at 4K or any of these guys. Maybe Yonir Diaz, possibly, because he's a mid-price catcher, but I don't have much interest.
I want Alvarez to be in there for Crochet's purposes. Yeah, I'm not playing Houston bats. If anything, maybe like a Pena one off or an Altuve one off. And then
Yeah.
I have zero interest in the White Sox bats today. Hunter Brown is a guy that is very capable of blowing up. It's just the White Sox bats against right-handed pitching are just atrocious.
Yeah, I see no reason to get to any of these bats. Brown should be able to dominate this matchup pretty easily.
You could make you could make a argument for Luis Robert at 4,800 against anybody, but I just don't think this is the spot I want to play him. Dodgers, Rockies, 11 total. Dodgers a 215 favorite. Bobby Miller, Ryan Feltner facing off against each other. Bobby Miller coming back from the IL here. I mean, he threw a couple rehab starts from what I heard, and his fastball was up, but he really struggled with command. I don't think that's necessarily what you want. I have no interest in Bobby Miller today. He's going to have to prove it to me. And I always worry about Dodgers pitchers coming back from the IL.
Yeah, I'm definitely not. I'm not rostering Bobby Miller. No shot.
We're definitely not playing Feltner either, right?
No.
I mean, Austin Gomber threw like he threw into like the 6th or 7th inning on Tuesday. Not playing Feltner. Let's talk bats here. Everybody, I mean, like Ohtani as much as possible today, right? Feltner struggles against lefties. Ohtani is one of the best hitters in baseball, so prioritize Ohtani and Freeman on this slate for sure.
Yeah, I mean it's definitely the Dodgers this entire series. Yeah, I mean it's all the lefties. Even like Hayward at 3,800 is fine. Lux at 3,800 is fine. Yeah, I mean it's really all the lefties, and even paying $7K for Ohtani, it seems so weird, but it's the right play. So definitely want to get to as much of him as you can.
Yeah, I mean, best hitter on the slate. It's just the price, the sticker shock is not fun by any means.
Nope.
Rockies bats. I mean, I think you could stack Rockies today. Like, I don't really know what to expect out of Bobby Miller, but he's been struggling with command in the minors in his rehab. And I mean, I'm just worried overall about him, how deep he'll go here. So I have no issues attacking the Rockies again here against Miller. I played some Rockies against Bueller. Ended up playing a little Bueller too. But yeah, I mean, I think the Rockies are very much in play today.
Yeah, I definitely made a really bad call on Bueller. I apologize to any of my listeners. I thought the Rockies were way too expensive. Turns out they were not. This is a way better spot for them. So yeah, I have no issue getting to some Rockies. Maybe not a full stack, but definitely a 3-man is fine.
Yeah, they're saying Gomber went 6 2/3, not 7 2/3. So, moving on, we got Milwaukee at LA taking on the Angels. 8 total in this one. Milwaukee a 154 favorite. Freddie Peralta, Tyler Anderson. I mean, last year you would be sitting here going, Freddie Peralta is a lock, right? Like he with his strikeout stuff last season, like you wouldn't even remotely think twice about Freddie Peralta being the top pitcher on the slate here. I'm a little concerned about what we've witnessed recently with him, but I mean, I think this is a spot you're just going to have to close your eyes and hope that Freddie Peralta shows up because this lineup's just not that good.
The lineup's certainly awful, but the issue I have is the slate. We already have so many great pitchers on the slate. You don't have to play Freddie if you don't want to. So we've already talked about probably 3 or 4 pitchers that we'd rather play over Freddie Peralta, which is weird because it's an 8-game slate. So you don't actually have to play any of these anybody like Peralta. The Angels only strike out at a 21% clip against righties. So you're paying a lot of money for a great run prevention spot, but you're not going to get a lot of keys. So I'm not sure that you have to play him.
I mean, I disagree, but we're not always going to agree on everything. The dude has a 31% K rate this season, and there's plenty of strikeouts in this lineup. So we can't always agree, Tim. We can't always agree. And like, I'm typically a person that will, in my 20-inch max builds, have 4 or 5 pitchers. I'll have 6 today. I mean, there's 6 guys that I like: Bradley,
Yeah.
Ryan, Brown, Crochet, Peralta, and Riggins. I mean, those are the 6 guys. I can tell you right now that my pitching player pool is already narrowed down to those 6 guys today because I mean that's what I like. So I like Peralta. I have absolutely no interest in Tyler Anderson. I know that he's been able to string together some decent starts. He just no upside on a slate where we just have a ton of ceiling at pitcher.
I would absolutely not play Tyler Anderson. No chance at all.
Hey, listen, 16% Ks. That doesn't excite you at all? 10% walks. Yeah. I mean, let's talk Milwaukee bats. What do we like here for the Brewers?
uh, I I like Hoskins at 4K quite a bit. I like obviously Contreras at 5,500 if you want to pay up a catcher. Adames at 4,500. I think this is a really good mid-range price stack. Anderson is kind of, he's decent, but he's beatable. And also has reverse splits. So Yelich, obviously a great play. So really, I like this whole stack quite a bit.
Gary the Goat, if you want to save money at catcher, Gary Sanchez, 3,700, fly ball guy, ground ball. I don't even know if we call Tyler Anderson a ground ball guy anymore. So like a guy like Sanchez, Joey Ortiz, you mentioned Reese Hoskins. Hoskins' numbers are down a little bit this season against lefties, but we know how good he is against lefties throughout his career. So, yeah, I mean, Brewers very much on my radar today. Probably more of a mini stack today than like a full stack, but very interested in the Brook room. Any interest in the Angels bats in this one?
No, definitely not.
Hey, we can agree on that.
Yeah.
Kansas City at Oakland, 7.5 total in this one. Kansas City, a 176 favorite. Cole Reagans against Luis Medina. Reagans, another guy, just another guy that has a huge ceiling, just absolutely fantastic. What are your thoughts here on Reagans today?
Yeah, I mean, I absolutely love him. I'm really debating whether it's going to be Ryan or if it's going to be Reagan's as my SP1. So I absolutely love him. This A's team, despite what they're doing tonight, are pretty awful. So absolutely love Reagan's. The bottom of this A's lineup strikes out a ton against left-handed bats. So I really like Reagan's tonight.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is a good spot for him. A lot of strikeouts in this lineup throughout the whole lineup. They're going to throw a lot more righties at him, but I don't think that matters. His strikeout rate's higher against righties than it is against lefties, so they're probably going to do him a little bit of a favor here. The other side of this game, Medina, I mean, hasn't been good yet this year. He had a decent start last out or against Atlanta as his first start, but I am
Yep.
very interested today in the Royals, not Medina.
Yeah, I have no interest in Medina at all. Definitely interested in some KC bats. Obviously, Bobby Woodson play any slate. Vinny P, I absolutely love at 4,600. Melendez at 3,300. I mean, this team is relatively affordable outside of wet. So, really, really like the Royals, a full stack.
I hate how straightforward this slate seems. I hate slates like this. Like we know what pitchers we want, we know what bats we want, and I really hate slates like this.
But I think ownership's going to be super spread out in terms of pitching.
Oh, I do at pitching, but I don't think at hitting. I think that you're going to try to get Dodgers as much as possible, and they're going to go bonkers against Feltner and Coors.
It's
I hope
tough
that
though
game
because
gets rained out. I hope that game
yes,
gets rained out.
I do too. I agree with that statement. But I
Yeah.
mean, ownership's going to get spread out at pitching. It's hard to play Dodgers because there's so much high end pitching. But Brown ruins the slate because he's way too cheap.
Yeah. Any interest in the Oakland bats against Reagans?
I can't do it. I can't recommend anybody really.
Yeah, I mean, I like my boy Roker, but I think there's going to be better times to play him, not against Reagans. So,
yeah.
All right, we cruise through that. Like I said, I feel like it's a pretty straightforward slate, so probably be awful. Let's play the morning grind game, and then we'll get out of here. Under 8K to get 6 or more strikeouts. Who do you got?
I guess I'll just be the guest and go Hunter Brown.
Yeah, I mean, I would hope so. Um, yeah, I mean, I don't think anybody else is great and has a chance to get there. I mean, I'm not going to cheat and say Taj Bradley because he's right at 8K. I really don't think anybody else gets the strikeouts in this range. If I had to pick somebody that potentially gets there, I mean, maybe Andrew Heaney if he has his stuff, but I think this is
I,
a day that like you're going to be living in the 8K range to 9K range at pitcher outside of Brown and Bradley.
I think Povich could do it.
Yeah, I mean, he could. The Yankees just don't strike out a lot, so I'm
I
pass.
know. Yeah.
Um, over 8K to score under 15. Who's your bust today?
This is the tough question. Um, I guess I'd go Cole.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's two clear options here of guys we just don't want to play in this range, and it's Cole and Gaussman. So over 4K to hit a home run, not in cores. Who's going yard today?
I'm gonna go Adolis Garcia.
All right. Man, so many options today. The guy that I like for the home run the most is under 4K. But give me the polar bear here. Give me Pete Alonso to go yard in this one. Under
Yep.
4K to get 2 hits. Who's a cheap bet that you like to get 2 hits today?
I'll go MJ Melendez.
All right. I didn't do this on purpose. I wasn't like eventually picking Alonso. I just like him. But give me Vientos as my 2 hit guy today under 4K. Stack to score 6 or more runs today. Who's getting the job done?
Outside of Coors, I will go with Casey.
Oh, off the board. I like it. I'm going to go Mets. I like the Mets today. I just did 3 Mets answers in a row. All right. Any pick-up plays or player props that you like on this one?
I haven't gotten a chance to look at props yet. There's not much of when I first looked, but let me check
Yeah,
again.
there's still not a lot. I hate when they don't have props up the night before. I will say, like, I'm very tempted to bet Garrett Crochet at even money over 6.5 strikeouts. I'm not going to right now, but I'm very, very tempted. I want to see what the lineup looks like, but I know you're going to probably end up paying some juice if you wait. But yeah, I mean, some strikeout props that I will be potentially looking for in the morning: Taj Bradley, Cole Reagans, Freddie Peralta. None of those are up yet, so I'll be checking those in the morning. Any lines jumping off to you here on the board?
I guess I don't mind. Real quick, Hunter Brown over 6.5 Ks at plus 125 on DK. I don't mind that. I think I'm going to bet that. And then for actual money line game, I think I'm going to go. I think I'm going to go with the Mets minus 110.
Yeah, I mean, that game, a pick'em game, I don't hate that at all. Nothing else really jumping off the page to me here. I mean, potentially taking the shot on the Mets team line. I think it's 4.5 at plus money. Yeah, you can get it at 4.5 at plus money. I don't hate that. Yeah. Tim, any final thoughts before we get out of here?
Make sure to just with your pitchers on Wednesday, hunt for ceiling, not floor. There's so many
Uh,
Ks tomorrow, which is pretty rare.
yeah, a lot of upside on this slate as far as pitching. Should be a really fun slate. Makes up for the pitching, the lack of pitching that we had on Tuesday night. A lot of good bats. Should be fun. I will be on Grinders Live tomorrow morning, on Wednesday morning, crunch time with Roth and Squirrel. That should be a lot of fun. Dean and Blender doing a Grinders Live on Wednesday morning. So if you want some picks for the early slate, it'd be interesting. It's a funny one. I already started looking at it a little bit, but we'll be on tomorrow. RotoGrinders. That'll wrap it up here for Wednesday. We're back tomorrow talking baseball. Good luck, everyone.